I was financially helping my so of 1.5 years, and I had a crisis that he doesn't believe just because I don't want to help him anymore. I met Travis a year and a half ago. At the beginning of our relationship, he was going through some financial rough patches. I had the stability to lend him a hand, though I decided not to offer right away to avoid letting money become the center of our dynamic too quickly. Besides, he had a good job that was enough to support himself, though he was drowning in massive student loan debt and monthly bills. After a year together, with the relationship solidified and the idea of a formal future on the table, we talked about marriage in the medium term. I decided to get fully involved and help him out. Since then, I had paid off about $6,000 of his debt, besides religiously footing the bill for his rental or company car, which came out to about $1,000 a month for the last 3 months, since he had a disastrous credit history. I also pitched in with sporadic bills. We discussed everything, and he was always extremely grateful. Over time, I saved up enough to finally buy him the exact car we wanted. We had planned to go pick it up in a neighboring state 3.5 hours away, where the deals were incredible. But fate, or rather the medical nightmare of my past, decided to interrupt our plans. Just a year earlier, I had beaten ovarian cancer. I'm in remission, finally. But the medical bills from my treatment came back to haunt me in the cruelest way. They aren't kidding when they say cancer leaves you broke. The massive hospital debt put a sudden stop to buying the vehicle. Hardly 3 weeks after that setback, we went golfing. I noticed Travis was unusually tense. When I asked him what was wrong, he confessed he was overwhelmed because his weekly $200 rental car payment was due, and he only had $10 measly left in his bank account. I promised him that the next day we would meet for lunch, and I would write him a check not only for that payment, but for the entire amount of the car he wanted so badly, so he could breathe easy. I got home past midnight after our date and logged into my online banking to check my balances. I froze. There were only $2 left in my account. There was a massive, staggering withdrawal. When I investigated the source of the transaction, my world came crashing down. When I turned 24, my father passed away, and my mom was left completely helpless and without an income. To support her, I added her name to my bank account as a secondary holder so she could receive support transfers. It worked well for a couple of years until she got a job. However, out of pure negligence on my part, I never removed her name from the account. I always trusted her blindly and never imagined she would be capable of betraying me. 6 months ago, my mom did something insane. She ran off to Germany with her new boyfriend, cut off all contact with me, and abandoned me completely. Being an only child, I was left parentless overnight. Travis thought it was extremely weird at the time, though he never got to meet her since she lived in another part of the country. But the worst part wasn't the mystery of my mother. She had completely emptied out my bank account. After talking to the bank and a lawyer, I discovered the devastating legal truth. Since her name was on the account and I had voluntarily deposited money into it in the past, the law couldn't do anything. Morally, it was a blatant theft, but legally, she hadn't committed any crime. Desperate and on the verge of a breakdown, I texted Travis telling him about the nightmare, asking for a little moral support and understanding while I tried to process the blow. His response? "If you didn't want to help me out with the car, you could have just told me straight up." He unloaded a venomous speech, claiming that whenever he really needed help or we were about to make a big purchase, a miraculous, super rare freak tragedy always happened to prevent it. I understand it sounded like a Hollywood movie, but his lack of empathy and trust destroyed me. Even so, I decided to go over to his house that very night to talk in person and calm things down, overwhelmed with stress and with my heart in my hand. Update. 2 weeks later. 2 weeks have passed since that hell, and many have asked to know how this ended. That night, I went to his house bringing some food from his favorite restaurant and a few groceries to lighten the tension, because I admit I'm the type who always gives too much. When I walked in, I found him sitting on the couch with a brand new golf bag in front of him. He had bought it using his club credit. When he saw the look of surprise on my face, he just said, "I don't want dinner, I'm fine." I brushed off the disrespect to avoid an argument. I sat in the armchair across from him and tried to fix things. I pulled out a notepad and put together a detailed financial plan for him, with a budget, so he could afford to buy a car on his own. His only response was a dry, "Sounds good." I felt so suffocated that I went out to the backyard. He lives in a gorgeous rural area, surrounded by fields, to cry alone in silence. After a while, he came out to wander around the yard without speaking to me. After a bit, he tossed out disdainfully, "So are you just planning on giving me the silent treatment all night?" and started up again complaining about what a huge financial disappointment I was to him. At that exact moment, something inside me snapped. Without saying a single word, I stood up, grabbed the bag with the food and groceries I had bought him, looked him straight in the eyes, and told him we were done. I walked out of his house, blocked his number immediately, and erased him from my life forever. Even though it still hurts to process the double betrayal, the relief I felt when I closed that door was indescribable. For the first time in a long time, I am no longer anyone's walking wallet. I'm still dealing with the blow of what my mother did, but walking away from Travis was the best decision I could have ever made.